Okay. This is the October 2nd, 2019 meeting of the Laconia Conservation Commission. I am Dean Anson.
Deb Williams?
Lisa Moran.
Dick Christopher.
Mike Foot and
Ashley Ruprecht.
Okay, so we have a quorum, and we're going to do a pledge to the flag to start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the minutes from September 18th. Did everybody get a chance to review them?
I tried to shorten them up a little bit.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from 9:18.
I see what happened. Wes came in late.
Right, Wes came in late, but the thing we had to vote on was Steve Smith's project at number 8 Beechwood, lot number 8 at Beechwood.
Where is Beechwood? That's,
I'll second Deb's motion.
Okay,
I'm sorry, we were gonna have discussion.
Yeah, we can have discussion.
okay, but, you know, all right, so, so the question is, okay, so we started the meeting without a quorum, which we're not allowed to do. So, not having a quorum means we can't start a meeting. And I was wrong because I started the meeting without a quorum.
I sit on nonprofit boards, and sometimes we don't have a quorum and we have a discussion. We can't vote on the minutes, we can't vote on the financials. So I don't know if it's a different set of
That's exactly
rules.
what
be
we
Marty
did.
tonight?
Yeah, and so, but okay, so there are two issues. One issue is you can't start a meeting without a quorum. If a member comes in and we have a quorum, then we could start the meeting.
But can we meet and have a discussion, or is that
Yes.
an illegal meeting?
Yes, no, we can have a discussion. There are no minutes.
We can have a
There's
work
no.
session.
We can have a work session.
Okay, well, that's what, thank you, that's what I was
Right.
trying to clarify.
that was
So-
example.
So I was wrong. I started the meeting. We didn't have a quorum. Wes came in late, and when Wes came in, it's not exactly clear. Well, Wes seconded accepting the minutes.
Because we held that off until we had a
As-
quorum.
Okay, thank you. So, my mistake was starting the meeting. I should not have started the meeting.
But we never knew that, so.
Well, that's, you know.
so if you just declare, like she said, a work session, and we'll delay the meeting until we get a quorum.
Does a work session get recorded? It's a public, is it public?
It does not.
Does
No.
not, okay.
Okay, so we have 7 members of this commission. And Wes has a crazy work schedule, and, you know, I mean, he's working really hard. Marnie is, you know, she's probably not here more than she's here, because she goes on trips. I wonder if we can ask Marnie to be an alternate, which means that when we don't have a quorum, if she's here, she becomes a voting member. We just have to make that clear in the minutes. That's one option. Another option would be to get more members.
We're restricted to 7 according to the
Right.
thing. We'd have to petition probably the city council and God and somebody else probably, but
But
I think that would be appropriate way, although it took a long time to get Wes.
we can have as many alternates, excuse me, as we want, And I'm just offering that maybe another suggestion could be that we talk to Marnie, but we don't ask her to necessarily make that decision. We just get more alternates and vote them as, approve them as voting members for that night if she's not here.
Right.
I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there.
How do other boards, commissions deal with their alternates? Do the alternates show up, say, the ZBA and all that?
Yeah, the planning board has alternates, and they show up and, at the beginning of the meeting.
They don't vote or anything?
Well, the chair says, we have, so-and-so, this alternate will be a voting member.
But say we got a full quorum, and the alternate shows up. Can the alternate, I know he can't vote then, but can he speak?
yes,
Oh, yeah.
yes. And they can ask questions,
So,
and it'd be a whole part of the process,
only
just
thing
when
is
it comes
no
down to
votes.
the vote.
Right, they can't vote.
all right,
But if somebody has to leave early from a meeting,
yeah, they could throw him right in.
right, then we declare them a voting member.
So would we be looking to change from 7 members to 6? Because I believe the 7-member, that
Se-
number comes from the New Hampshire Planning and Land Use Regulations.
that's the maximum
So it
they're
wouldn't,
allowed.
yeah.
Oh, including alternates?
Is that a max or a min?
No, that's regular members. That's
Regular
max.
members is 7.
You have to have
Including
between 4 and 7.
alternates. I believe that's, and I can double check, but I was talking with Kalina about that today, and it was 7 members.
Okay,
It is 7.
okay, so, we can't have more than 7,
Unless it gets changed.
but we can have 7 full members and alternates. We can't have less than 4.
No.
So, but if we get to the situation where we don't have a quorum, we can have a working meeting.
And a quorum is how many?
4.
4?
We could also start later if we knew that Wes couldn't make it until 6:30.
That was my
Then we could plan to just start at 6:30, or say that 3 of us are here, we can talk amongst ourselves until a 4th person shows up.
I don't think there's any problem with recruiting one other person also, whether they be an alternate. Someone else to get in and be
Got somebody in
interested.
mind or something?
I've been reading all these books about British shipping, and there's these press gangs. And I'm thinking, this is
They're what?
press gangs, never.
They just
Like
grab you and
Shanghai.
take you
They-
away.
Shanghai.
Shanghai.
Shanghai you.
Okay.
But I seriously, there should be some,
Do we want to consider the option of switching our meetings to 6:30?
it's up to you guys.
Doesn't matter to
I
me.
mean, how do you guys feel about it?
I don't have a problem with 6, but if you guys want 6:30, that'll be what it is also.
Is he still gonna get here by 6:30? Wes, I mean?
It's usually 6:45.
Yeah, I think his schedule
What,
is,
6:41 last time?
So that gives us 15 minutes for a work session.
I mean, Wes is a hard worker, and I know he's got more than one job, so it's
I-
nothing wrong with that.
I wouldn't have a problem with it. I think you ought to talk to Wes if he can routinely make 6:30s.
What about Ashley? Is 6:30 work for you?
It's fine with me.
Can you be an alternate?
Jeez.
I think that's a conflict of interest.
I think so.
You have to live in the city also.
Oh, that's right.
We can try and make the meetings a little more concise so that people aren't here.
So that we're
And
out
then
by 8
later.
o'clock, still out by 8 o'clock.
So what it boils down to is that we gotta advertise for alternates. Get some ads in the paper,
Well,
Or on your Laconia links.
yeah?
I have no idea how, I
On
never
everything
see,
that you can think of.
right? Beat the drum again for more. All boards need people.
Yeah.
All boards need.
You see this little ad about this big sometimes showing up in the paper. Not very often, but I think we ought to put our own in there.
The other thing we could do is ask if one of the planning board members would like to be a member of this.
Oh, liaison again? You ready to run
Well,
that again?
Well, not a liaison, a member,
Right?
and,
No, right, as a liaison,
because they can, the rules say we can serve on a planning board, and they can serve on a conservation commission, just one person. So I guess they don't want
When do they have their meetings?
Tuesdays?
Same week we do, or
Planning board meeting was last night.
are they on, I mean, are they on a 2-week schedule, 1-week schedule? or-
I believe it's every other week.
So the same time?
Same schedule we're on. And we had a liaison in the past that was not a voting
I've
member.
never seen them since I've been here, so.
Right, and,
I was just concerned about, somebody going out 2 nights in a row wanting to do that. Planning boards usually go pretty late.
that would be, their decision.
Yeah, I
We're
agree.
not gonna handcuff
We can
anybody.
ask, that's for
Handcuff them to
sure.
the seat.
But I still think we should advertise.
I absolutely agree.
I
agree.
concur. I'm
Correction,
with that.
planning board meeting is once a month.
Oh, it is?
It's on Tuesday.
Okay,
Nice.
and is it the first Tuesday of the month?
That's what it looks like. Yeah, I believe so.
Ashley, I'd like to suggest too, I don't know how quickly we would get somebody interested, but and what's our deadline for that workshop? I mean, the 15th, October 15th, so 2 weeks from now. If you're gonna run an ad ASAP, you could say the first 5, I'm wondering if the city would be willing to pay for people to go who aren't necessarily already sitting on a board but are interested in being an alternate, like they could get training. What I'm thinking is a lot of times people will say, and particularly women, oh, I don't know anything about that, I couldn't, and yet they're sitting with a wealth of information that could be valuable. So I don't know what the city's feeling is on that, if they would want, if somebody applies within the next week, if you put in an ad, in the apply in the next week, potentially a scholarship to the NHACC meeting. I don't know.
It's
I can
from
look
our
into it.
budget though, right?
Well, I'm just saying, well, maybe we should set a limit then, I don't know,
Okay, all right, so let's get back on track here.
Approve the
Wait,
minutes?
Yeah, let's approve the minutes first.
Okay,
Since we,
I lost track, I did.
that's right, so,
You jumped
so
in
we
here.
have,
A second, any discussion?
right. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Okay,
where is Beechwood?
61 Pendleton.
it's over,
It's
Oh,
off,
We've seen this before.
It's
is that off of Pendleton there?
yeah, it's down, like, up from the Weirs, heading towards Governor's.
Yeah, I know what Pendleton
back
is.
behind where St. Helena's
that
used
where
to
they-
be.
Not where they tore down the church, is it?
Yes, but this is behind there, it's not that development.
Yeah, it's not that one.
Right,
Okay.
this is
I
down
wasn't
closer.
here, so I just wondered about it.
Yeah.
right.
Are we looking at that tonight, too?
Mm-mm,
No, something else?
we already did.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, anybody have any comments? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Opposed? Good, thank you. Okay, so we can get to the agenda now.
If you scroll to the, pull your finger down the screen and the tabs appear at the top. And then you can hit the agenda tab and it takes
Thank
you
you.
back. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
we are talking about it tonight.
So-
Declaration of
It's
We're-
on here.
We're talking, with Beechwood, we're going to talk about we requested a copy of the homeowners association rules for the common area bylaws. So that's what we're discussing. I do have just a write-up of the conditions from when they came in last week and those were, that they would, number one, add a note on the site plans that states that the 30-foot wetland buffer is a no-cut zone and not to be disturbed. The second condition was the original conditional approval notes that were listed on that site plan provided, dated August 7th, 2019, are shown on the plans for approval. The third was a list of acceptable activities in the common area of the homeowners association are provided for review of the Conservation Commission, which we're doing tonight. And lastly, construction is done per the plan and proper erosion controls are installed and maintained during construction and until vegetation is reestablished.
Question. I thought the wetlands buffer was 50, not 30.
It is now. So it was grandfathered in.
Oh,
This was started way back in
Mhm.
2009,
oh, okay.
is that when it was? Three?
Right, so basically, when they got approval, it was a 30-foot buffer. and then
2003 was their first.
They've come in every year to get extensions on the CUP since then, and now the buffer's changed to 50 feet, so.
Right, 'cause their grandfather, okay.
Well, so they are coming back with basically the new CUP is requesting that they just take their old application and grandfather it in, and also shifting the lot out of the wetlands.
It's still 30
more.
feet for them, right?
That's what they're requesting, so that's what their application is requesting.
And they're requesting it of whom? Us?
Well, we're just, they came to us first, but then they have to go to the planning board.
Yeah, but they're requesting an exception then, at this point.
They had quite a presentation last time, and they've actually had moved one of the lots that was more in the wetland out as far as they could. So, I mean, they were working pretty hard to try and come up with a good plan for everyone. I have to say, I read through this briefly, and I didn't see mention of using any kind of restrictions on pesticides or fertilizer. I don't know if it's in here, but we usually, I'm sorry?
It's pretty lengthy.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we usually request now, that there's, no phosphorus used in any of the fertilizers, And then also, I wondered about snow storage.
Well, what?
Snow storage,
Oh.
where they're gonna
okay,
plow
yeah.
their snow to, and, because usually it's gonna contain some kind of salt.
So did they have to go to a TRC?
Yes,
Okay, so
they're going to October 9th.
October 9th, and you will go to that?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that, Deb's comments can be part of the questions and ask them where they're gonna store their snow. Where the snow removal, storage will be. And secondly, as Deb said, we specifically request no fertilizers, no herbicides, no pesticides. And then, did they say that they're going to remove all invasive species when they do their construction? I mean, you're right, this is lengthy and.
I had asked them about that during the meeting last time, but I don't,
They said they did not believe that there were any,
Right.
but it wasn't listed as any conditional approval from the past CUP.
Right.
So if that's something that we'd like to consider, then we could add it, so there would be. Do we wanna stipulate that it's done by a certified professional, as we've done for the previous recommendations?
I would say yes, and as long as it's not within the 30 feet, the back.
Wetland
yeah,
buffer.
The buffer. I mean, we don't want invasives, but I don't know if we wanna yank them out of there either. Cause we don't want anyone in there.
I guess having been part of an HOA, who is going to make sure that these restrictions on easements are implemented? Is there somebody on the board of directors of the HOA? Is it an HOA? Must be an HOA.
So you're wondering if they do like periodic
Or a
checks
condominium
and-
association.
A condominium association or whatever it is. And it's a cluster subdivision. So I don't know what that has anything to do with the price of milk.
It's the amount of green space, it's the amount of, density in it, how much is reserved for common areas.
It seems very specific in a lot of, ways as far as TV antennas, height of trees, canopies, so I would think there would be somebody that would be watching those restrictions.
So with how you're right, how specific it gets, the homeowners association would be responsible for, I think most often it would be a complaint that comes in, someone sees their neighbor, or sometimes people live in there and they're also on the board, so
Right.
they see what's going on. The city does have ordinances for common areas and conservation
Mhm.
green space areas as well, so we enforce those ordinances, but we wouldn't be enforcing satellites and antennas,
Right.
cause that's
That's
their,
within their own,
right,
That's their own, yeah.
yep.
So when condominiums have green space, does the city inspect that once a year?
That'd be nice.
No. They didn't in South Down in Long Bay.
Technically, though, if they're in,
it's not conservation, it's just green space within.
right, but if the city
condominium.
has stipulations for it,
Right.
I would
Typically,
think,
the process is, if anyone wants to say, cut trees in their green space that's behind their unit, they would go to their homeowners association, they would get permission from them, and they would also need to, as part of that process, come to the city. So it's kind of connected. Their laws also reflect city ordinances, so then the property owners would consult me and say, hey, I have trees, and if they're dead, dying, or diseased, then typically it's yes, but obviously there's nuances to that. If they're healthy trees, that's a totally different story, but basically I work with the property owner, and depending on their circumstance, we also want permission from the homeowners association and see that everything's in check.
So usually what triggers it is a complaint of usually what triggers like
Not
every,
always, yeah.
well, no, but I'm just saying, of like a site, if somebody's violating, if a neighbor thinks somebody's violated their site plan, so to speak, that their neighbors, then they would have a complaint and that would trigger
Perhaps, I think in a lot of these homeowners associations, people see that their neighbor cut their trees and they're like, hey, how did you do that? What was your process? And so they ask what they did, and then they say, oh, this is what I did, and you need to go to the homeowners association and talk to the city. And so that's, cause it's pretty common, I've talked to a couple people about that
interesting.
before, I mean, that's always ideal to do it before.
I know.
Right.
That's,
Been there, done that.
right,
I marked the trees I'm gonna cut. Then he cut all the rest of them.
Yeah.
And what he did is he marked the trees he wanted to leave, so he left 20 when he was supposed to be removing 20, and he cut 80. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so I have a question here. Only domestic animals such as cats, dogs, horses, and birds shall be allowed as pets.
Horses.
But it
Horses-
That
goes,
would be negated just as because of
goes
the whole
on-
density thing.
no, it does go on to say about approval for, other animals that are not dogs.
'Cause you need 0.75
Yes,
acres
yes.
per horse,
Yeah.
per,
Yeah.
But,
It's-
but what's the zoning, what's the zoning for this? Are they allowed to have
He just-
horses and birds?
No, you have to have point,
0.75 per horse.
Yeah, right, I understand that, but,
Agriculture. so-
if you have that size property, but it's not zoned,
Correct? That's, you couldn't do that in the
Right.
downtown riverfront
right,
or
so,
the commercial area.
it does go on to say it's by approval only.
yeah, I know, but what's the zoning for this property? Is it zoned?
Shorefront, I bet you it's pretty close to shorefront.
I'm looking at this and I'm saying,
Or is it
horses
not
and
here?
birds? No, birds, you know what they are, they're talking about chickens. Probably, I mean, they could
Don't
be.
be hating on no chickens now.
Aren't we up here?
I don't, when I see that, I don't think of chickens, I think.
Pendleton is gonna be on the other side,
So you think like,
up, no, up, now go,
Cockatoos.
upper right. There you go, you're coming close to Pendleton.
Bridge is
I'm
here.
thinking
Yeah.
roosters.
Sorry, I don't know that one off the top of my head.
Okay, but,
I think it's CR, commercial residential,
Commercial resort.
commercial resort, is that what that is?
okay, so,
Then if you're that, there may be some crosstalk on are horses allowed there? Why did they even put horses in there?
I don't know. I'm questioning it because if we okay this and horses, and this is not zoned,
Well, then just reference
still-
it to the,
maybe you could just ask them.
It still has to be approved, and if they don't want you to have a TV antenna, I don't think they want you to have roosters walking around either. Let's think.
Depends on how many horses asses they have.
Kind of excludes ham radio, that's for sure.
Yeah, really? Okay,
So
anyway.
I'll look into
PRB
it.
one, I think, some, the FCC,
Throw me some curveballs tonight, Dean, on my own
No
today.
common facilities provides access.
You're
supposed to make
Okay.
reasonable accommodations for
well equipped.
amateur radio and all these, things like this.
can't go in and tell them how to write their stuff.
Okay, so this, is this declaration of covenants? It's for Birchwood, Beechwood, okay. Because we're talking specifically about number 8, and it says here, it identifies who is allowed to have docks, and number 8 is not one of them, okay, that's all right.
Don't buy 8.
It's too late, it's the only one for sale. Okay, any other comments, questions, suggestions, ideas?
Only that in all of our free time, it might be nice to once in a while do some walkthroughs of green spaces within any of these developments. I know we talked about it for a development that has yet to happen on Weirs Boulevard, because it was in conjunction with
Mhm.
Prescott Farm. So we did talk about that.
Would you like
Something to
for me
think
to
about.
start with green spaces or conservation easements first? 'Cause
Easements. I'm not saying you have to do it, I'm just saying that that's something that maybe we should think about. If we're gonna have, 30 developments with green spaces in the city of Laconia,
It wouldn't be too hard to check on them yearly, I would think,
Right.
either. I wouldn't think,
it's just a
but
thought. I'm just putting it out there.
So, does the city have a drone?
Oh, I wish.
Not
I don't
yet.
think
No, seriously, does it?
No, not yet.
They hired was it No Surrender out of Bow the last I knew. Like a year ago, I stopped and asked the guy who was using it in town, and he said that's what he was with.
It's on our wish list.
Okay, I have another question here. Under view corridor, a 25-foot wide landscape buffer has been established commencing 31 feet from the shore of Lake Winnipesaukee and running southerly between lots 1 and the property now of Michael Bank. Michael Bank a person, or is Michael Bank a bank? Like the Bank of New Hampshire?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
What section is this?
I'm sorry?
Where are you?
I'm on, C, section 10C,
Page.
page 10. And the other question I wanted to ask is, they want to plant hemlock trees? Do we want to suggest some other tree other than hemlock, given the woolly adelgia?
They might not be able to get any woolly adelgid, you know, shipped in. I'm just saying, depending on where they buy it.
I mean, do we want to suggest instead of woolly hemlock, do we want some other
Pine, evergreen.
evergreen?
Do
Says
we-
they shouldn't be more than 12 feet in height when mature either.
I think if they wanna pick a hemlock, then
Okay,
I don't see any.
Just thinking about lot 8, it's not a shoreland lot. So
so the rest of this
that-
is,
do we have the power to be changing homeowners association
Yeah.
rules that
Because
are
it's
not
not within
applicable
that
to
buffer.
lot 8?
It's on the other, outside of the buffer, correct? Yeah. 'cause
It
that's how
has
I'm
a
reading
it abuts a wetland, but it does not abut the shore.
okay, so the question is, if we're only dealing with number 8, can we really comment on this in sections that don't apply to number 8?
I
Chickens.
don't think,
Because this was done a long time ago.
really, the reason why we wanna review this is to make sure that the common area rules for lot, because the space next to lot 8 is a common area, and that's why we're commenting on that, but if it applies to the shoreline, I don't know if we,
Yeah, that doesn't apply to 8,
right,
okay,
this
sorry,
application.
lost my head, that's good.
But good point.
Okay, anybody have any additional comments?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so do we wanna, we don't have to approve this, do we?
We don't have to,
No.
We just,
No,
she took
we
the
just,
notes.
you just have questions that you're gonna ask at the TRC.
so I was submitting a memo to planning board on behalf of Conservation Commission, with those 4 conditions that I stated
Right,
earlier, and then, those 3 questions about snow storage, requesting that they don't use fertilizers, herbicides, or pesticides in the common area adjacent to lot 8,
On any area, should
Right.
Yeah,
in any
actually,
area.
just in any area,
right, on any lawns,
or,
since they're within,
or well, since it's applicable to the CUP, then we have to say to the project. No use of fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides.
Well, wait a minute.
within the
You-
buffer?
There's organic fertilizers that don't
Right.
have phosphorus in them,
Right, so fertilizers
Without,
oh,
minus the phosphate.
containing phosphorus. Anything else you wanna throw in there?
They put that natural fertilizer on our fields this week at school, and let me tell you,
so are we saying,
Plant some of the kids right out there, they grow right up.
are we saying all herbicides and all pesticides and fertilizers containing phosphorus?
Well, I don't know, there's some herbicides that are organic as well, I think. So, I don't know how you wanna word it.
organic.
We don't wanna contradict the last statement, which is that we want them to remove invasive species which may require the use of
Oh,
herbicides too.
Yep.
So, we
That-
gotta,
Maybe we could say, if herbicides are required to remove, then let us know first. Can we do that?
Or they need to be organic?
Well, organic
Is,
isn't,
yeah, I know.
that doesn't mean,
What'd you say?
organic doesn't mean that it won't be a negative
Impact.
fertilizer, you know? I
Right,
mean,
it's just natural materials.
it's yeah, so.
Okay, so I'll just add that to the last point that, remove any and all invasive species outside of the wetland buffer on the property, using a certified professional. If herbicides are required to remove invasives, consult Conservation Commission prior.
Why don't you tell them to consult the planning department, the conservation technician and the planning department?
Yeah.
And then you can let us know, because, you know, we could be 2 weeks away.
Right.
Right. Okay,
Okay,
any other comments?
anything else? Okay. That's it. Thank you. Next on the agenda is updates on the wetland rules. Wetland rules.
Sheesh,
So have these been approved?
Yes,
they have?
they're approved and they're getting rolled out December 15th.
So is there anything that says that we as a city have to use this, or can we say we're gonna abide by the old rules?
We can be more restrictive, but not less.
Right, well, the old rules were more restrictive.
Right. So, I think, you know, Ashley and I talked about this, and we decided that we would want to talk about this because there may be things that we need to change in the way that we do things, so that we pick up where they have eliminated something or changed it. So, for instance, the permits by notification. They say they were going to be, the current is they're gonna be processed in 10 days. The new is 5 days. And I don't know how many permits by notification the state gets, but to process all of them in 5 days, I think that would be a pretty onerous task. If you really,
Well, it shouldn't impact Conservation Commission because we only review expedited applications anyways, and that's before they submit them to DES. So
But
it will be a task for DES for sure to cut their review time in half, but Conservation Commission's only duty really is to review ahead of time before they submit.
okay, and so we don't get the permits by notification anymore.
We do. I get them when they're.
Right.
Yeah, I get applications and then, notices that they're accepted or denied. So I have them.
But we don't have to sign off on them.
No, they don't have, Conservation Commission is optional for expedited permits.
Or anything.
Okay, so I think in the case of permits by notification, we need to look at them individually and figure out which ones we need to be more attentive to. Because it may be that, it's just, we just want to replace something simple and, okay.
So if they don't go to Conservation Commission, they go to city clerk, they have to get city clerk sign off, and I get a scanned copy of that. So is that something, any applications that I get, is that what you want me to provide a PSA to the members, that we have these permits, or how would you like me to disseminate the information?
I have never talked to the city clerk about how, I think it's a she, how she does this. I think it's just that, we received it and that's it. She's not looking at the environmental, natural resource implications. I don't know where reviewing those falls in your list of priorities for work. You have Dean has set up, these are your priorities, and I don't know if, where they fall. I don't know if it's on the list or not on the list. Because if it's not on the list, or let's do the easy one. If it's on the list and it's a straightforward, simple one, then you can just say, okay, that's fine. If it's not simple, in your opinion, then you can call me or call Deb, and one of us will come down and take a look at it, and
So,
is that what we want to do?
Sorry.
That's okay.
so Ashley, just for clarification, the only one that we really have any say about is the third one down, expedited process, right? Any minimum impact project.
So,
The third one down from the top says expedited process. Processed in 30 days with CC review
at
and
least
waiver.
at least for before it gets to DES. Yeah,
Mhm.
expedited review. I have seen in one instance, and I reached out to you, Dean, where it was a notification of approval, but it gives a window for Conservation Commission to, if we wanted to, file
Mm-hmm.
some sort of intervention in this 10-day, however many day gap.
So I have a question, I need to go back, I'm sorry, so waiver of intervention, who gets to waive it? 30 days with CC review and waiver of intervention?
Which one are you on?
Third one down.
Expedited, I guess
Expedited
maybe, wait a minute,
process.
I guess I read it or, not and. I read it or, waiver of intervention, and a waiver of intervention.
It's, so because Conservation Commission reviews it before it gets to DES, after it's approved by DES, we waive our right to intervene.
After it's reviewed, yep. I read it or instead of and it confused me. Thank you.
Okay, but I want to go back to the permit by, actually, I want to talk about it in a more general way, and that is if there's anything that goes, any change that they have made, that, is there anything, any change that they have made that we should change the way that we approach things to make sure that they're within the city regulations, or if there's some concern that we have about how they're doing it? So that would be my concern, is that, it's clear what they're trying to do. They're trying to expedite the processing of wetland applications. And so,
And make it easier to do projects.
yeah, make it easier to do projects. And we may not want them to, because our rules and regulations are more stringent than the state's, and the state is saying, okay, you go ahead, you can do that. And we say, wait a minute, that's a class 1 stream.
Well,
And there's a buffer, there's a city buffer on that class 1
But then
stream.
they would need to come in anyways for city approval.
Right.
for example, though, like, I don't know what page this is. Oops. For a wetland assessment, used to be required for minor or major projects, and now it's a wetland functional assessment.
What's
It's required for all standard applications.
What's
So,
the level that you're looking at? What's it say on the far right-hand column? Left-hand
wetland
column?
assessment.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on like the 4th page or something.
Okay,
It's near the back.
I got it here.
So what is the difference between a wetland assessment and a wetland functional assessment? I feel like they are creating their own parameters, or lack thereof.
I think their effort, a lot of it was trying to incorporate where things have already been done in other departments across the state. So their reason for that was ensures consistency with New England ACE highway methodology. So a lot of their reasons and their rationale, I think, behind their changes is they're trying to incorporate any sort of overlap between the different departments in the state. I don't know off the top of my head what their new definition is for the wetland functional assessment. I'm sure they have a definition in their rules.
And the other one that hit me was the aquaculture. So before you used to have a standard wetlands permit and a New Hampshire Fish and Game license required. Now, no New Hampshire DES permit is required if a fish and game license has been obtained for projects up to 4.5 acres. So I feel like, I mean, technically, somebody could set up a little farm in Winnipesaukee? Does that mean? I mean,
It would, well, it's not, it doesn't apply to finfish. So it would be clams,
Right.
mussels,
they could try to
oysters.
do that in Winnipesaukee.
Yeah, that would be like,
Oysters
challenge.
Oysters clean the water. Haven't you seen that commercial?
Yeah, they could, do those snails there that are picking off boats all the time, yeah.
So we could raise Chinese mystery snails.
Yeah,
That's
really.
true.
Now, I'm really glad you guys got there. I was being the good kid in class and I was being quiet. You guys finally got there for me.
I
I
guess,
I don't know. I feel like if you give people an inch, they're gonna take a mile. And I'm just very sensitive to the fact that we're losing a lot of our environmental regulations, and
They did
it's gonna be
add-
hard to get them back.
I don't think it's listed in here, but I have some chicken scratch notes that I took, and they did add, protection against invasive species and protection of water quality using BMPs, and those are totally new, so.
That's good. And
Okay.
maybe we'll learn more if we go to
But-
the
And,
conference and workshop.
right, and we don't know I don't know what the New Hampshire Fish and Game license entails, what getting that license means. In other words,
For aquaculture,
yeah, so if it could be very strict, and it could be it's a duplication of what DES was doing, and that's why
Right.
they eliminated
Right.
DES permit, I don't know, but.
and, you know, but I know that the fishing license rules have been, and I think hunting also, say, once you become, I think it's 68 years old, you get a fishing license for life.
I got one right here.
I got one at home. So do you need a license for, aquaculture? If you're 68 years old, do you still need one, or do you get one because you live long enough?
I think
That's
being
something
an
you have to look up on your own.
being an aquaculturist and breeding and raising and doing rearing of oysters is a lot different than just going out once in a while with a fishing pole. I think
Right. Oh,
you
yeah.
definitely would need a license. I would think you would need a license,
I would think too.
no matter
I
what
guess
age.
this would actually apply to one of our lakes that we have any say on, as a
Well, the
Laconia
mussels-
commission.
Deb brought up the thing of mussels, and I mean, I guess we would, they would be fairly
Freshwater
inland.
mussels?
They would be fairly inland, but
Heck,
I'm
The
kind of-
Indians used to eat them.
I'm kind of wondering if this isn't like a work session thing, or a different format than trying to hash this out, like
We
right
don't
now,
really
just-
have much information here.
Right.
So,
Well, and this provides the opportunity for when we go to the meeting on November 2nd to
Yeah.
ask questions.
yeah,
The thing that concerns me, there are two things that concern me. These are already approved. This is happening. We have no input.
No.
That
Now they're
process
just gonna
has
tell you what it
gone.
is.
yeah.
Right. So now, the other thing that concerns me, actually, we had the opportunity to make
Right.
comments before. And the thing that concerns me is how does it affect us in a city? And, maybe the best way to do this is to go to this session and see if we can get other conservation commissions that are around us to sit down and talk about what changes we need to make to adjust to these changes.
I think it'll be really helpful because the training that I went to was it was kind of introductory, throw you guys in.
Yeah, here's the
Here's
papers.
what's happening, and it's a big picture because, I saw people from the utility. So they're trying to cover all their bases
Right,
versus
Dean?
this will be custom.
right.
Jane, would we want to talk to Lakes Region Planning Commission, since they're already working with Winnipesaukee Watershed Network and the Lake Winnipesaukee Association, and, I mean, to host the meeting or facilitate a meeting of multiple conservation commissions. I don't know, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there.
So I'm on the executive
I know.
board, and, you know, I could do that. My personal opinion is, we gotta take care of it ourselves.
Invite other towns to sit and down and talk with us.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I think that if we did that, there are a number of things that we need to
Okay.
address. It's, you know, watersheds, you know, we have Lake Winnisquam that's got, you know, it's got actually 8 municipalities that surround it. 5 have waterfront. And, you know, there's not a coordination among the conservation commissions. And I think it would be helpful to do that. So, okay.
They did say at one point in the presentation that they were thinking about removing Conservation Commission participation in the new regs entirely, but of course there was a lot of backlash about that, so.
Mm.
And I think
we're still in the loop.
Barbara Richter she's the executive director of the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, also had rallied and gotten input and rallied, so I think she was integral.
So they haven't gone that far.
Well, I think, you know, just doing a cursory review, I mean, think that's where they're going. The objective is,
Well, the idea being that it happened here at this meeting, and I probably at others, I can't say for sure. People who have a vested interest in not having any regulations made comment of, well, what do the Conservation Commission members know anyway? Why are they standing in our way, was kind of what but that was rebutted with, well, we go to educations, we have staff helping us, it was not so I mean, that was one of, I think, the impetuses for looking at conservation commissions. Also the time lag in between meetings.
well, okay, all right. So, I think it behooves us to go to this session on November 2nd.
Do you have, I saw you had some sheets with schedules on them.
So I have a list of the different courses that they're offering at the NHACC annual conference, that's November 2nd. That session, that DES will be talking about how the rules how Conservation Commission's role will be in the permitting process with the new rules is in the first session, session A. So here's a list of the different sessions. If you plan to attend November 2nd, if you want to,
I think
Right.
I've missed that. Can you send that around again to me?
Yep. I can send it out electronically again, but even if you want to, they have descriptions in detail about all of the different courses. There's 24 different courses. So if you already know what you want, just circle which ones, write your name on it, and hand it to me, and I'll register you. If you need more
I
time,
think that what happened is there was a week there that I was feeling kind of bummed, and I had about 500 emails, and
well, you have until October 15th. So
October what?
October 15th. That's just what I need to know by, so I can register everyone in time.
You know, what might be helpful is, since we have all those options, if you could go through the different ones and see, maybe circle the ones you think would really apply to us.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah.
though.
Oh, I know.
I'm having a hard time picking which ones I want. Like, at that same session, there's fundamentals of Conservation Commission, which would be a good one, especially for me, because I'm a newcomer. So,
Yeah,
but
you
I know I need to go
did
to this
very
one.
well.
So there's a lot of different sessions that I think are applicable. If you want, I don't want to have to, I can make the judgment call and say, here are the ones I think would be most applicable.
I think we can figure it out.
Well, but my point was that if you circled 15 of them, and we have 5 people going, if each of us take take 3 of those,
Yeah.
then we have them covered, so that when we come back, the meeting, the first meeting in November, we could have as a working meeting and talk about what it is that we learned.
Yeah.
So we don't all go to the same one.
Exactly. Yeah, because everybody's gonna go to the wet one, and there may be another one that's, you know, co-occurring or whatever the word is.
Raising chickens in Laconia.
That's right. Chickens
Or
in
if we
Laconia.
send our sessions that we are interested in to Ashley,
And
we
she
can,
see our coverage.
she can kind of look at them and say, wait, you're all going to this one.
Yeah, I could put a spreadsheet together even, and then if there's multiple, just say, hey guys, I've noticed there's 3 of you that want to attend this same session. Are any of you interested in 1, 2, or 3 that are also going on at the same time and could be applicable, split up, divide and conquer? So, you wanna do it that way? You guys, everyone, first come, first serve,
Okay,
you give
alright.
me your sessions first, which ones you wanna
Sure,
attend.
yeah.
And then if, you know, second or third person says they want the same one,
Okay,
then
Who's,
Okay.
who's planning to go?
I'm going.
I'm gonna go.
I'd like to go.
I haven't gone
It's
in a number of years.
It's
I'd love to
a,
go.
the
Are you
November,
Vicente?
No,
Oh,
I'm,
you're
I
on
might
the
be a
board or
room
whatever.
moderator, yeah,
No.
if you're room moderator.
November what?
November 2nd is a Saturday.
It's a Saturday.
That should be all right.
I don't think we've gone since, well, I haven't gone since it was like your first year,
I went another
went.
time after that, I know that.
yeah. So, it'll be good.
Okay, anything else on that?
I assume it's gonna be down at the school in
It's gonna be down at
Pembroke
Pembroke
Academy.
Academy.
Brook Academy again, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we don't have any applications, do we?
No, we do not.
Good. Okay, United,
We got pictures, I love it. This is great.
So, last Wednesday, Dean and I,
Dean.
me and Dean Squared, went and tore Bittersweet out of the trees and bushes behind the library area.
Was there a ton?
Oh,
Oh,
there's a
my
lot.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's great.
The first one is, this is Tarzan Landing.
Yes.
I mean, there were times where all 3 of us had to
And
Yeah.
what a-
get on
Easy
one branch and pull it all
what a
up
pretty
together.
day. What a great day.
Oh, it was a beautiful day.
It was perfect outside.
And one of the police officers, one of the lieutenants came down and thanked us for clearing out that area, so it was more visible.
Yep.
And
'Cause there were a
today,
lot of people that-
the city, probably Parks and Rec, or, they were down and they were trimming stuff in the area that we didn't work, but they were cutting trees and all kinds of, they were making it much more visible, so, cool.
The 55 fifth graders are working on the WOW trail across from us.
Nice.
Pleasant Street does a nice job, I have to say.
Isn't there also a whole mess of stuff, across from the Boys and Girls Club there? Looks like there's, I'm not sure what it is, I didn't go over there and look. I think it's Bittersweet or what?
In O-Pee-Chee Park?
Yeah, yeah, back of the, guess.
Well, where the
right near-
statue
Right
was?
near where it used to be the health club there, is a health club now, in that area.
Oh, on that fence there?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
okay.
there's a mess of stuff right in there.
I'm gonna take note of that, because we just started
I'm
our.
not sure what it is, I just looked at it from across the street.
I think you're right, though. I think it is Bittersweet, because
Yeah.
I remember walking by there, but we're looking for little projects to do, right, that we could walk to from school, and that would be great.
It's pretty tall, I mean, 5, 6 feet. Anyway,
It'll keep the kids busy for a while.
The, if you haven't been behind the library recently,
Yeah, no, you're right.
it's, that's such a nice little park, even if there aren't fifth graders back there.
There are after school. There's a lot of kids
I bet,
back there
I
after
bet.
school.
Okay, so we did that, okay. Any update on Pearly Pond?
I got
So-
pictures.
You have pictures?
Anybody seen it since they clipped it?
No?
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow.
It looks pretty good, and they also cleaned out the right-hand side.
The Japanese knotweed?
Yeah, it's pretty much clear in there. Okay.
Can we email to this?
Let's
Haven't made
see.
it that far yet.
Okay.
You
Photos.
should be able to, within the, if you're still,
Yeah, here we go.
It won't let me get out of the web page, so I think I'd have to open a tab separate for like email,
Okay.
not on your email.
it'd be nice even in the web page if you could go between maps, the different maps we have on. This
You
is,
can scroll.
Yeah, if you open a new tab and log into your email, you could, if he emails it out.
Okay.
If you wanna take a look at this, where it's set up right now, I'll pass it around.
Yeah.
Scroll towards to the right. Let's pass that around. There's a whole
Dick's
bunch of
Picks.
them there. Some look like duplicates, but
I guess Wesley.
still looks big.
I was hanging in there till Wesley showed up.
you can make it bigger with your fingers, but.
No, I mean, the tree still looks like it's.
Oh, the tree looks good.
We don't need to vote on anything.
It's all nice and green. The tree doesn't look bad at all.
No, I think I
You can
called Amy.
You can scroll there, and there's a whole bunch of them close up of the tree, and it also shows the right-hand side.
Ones.
I called Amy Kubisik and told her I thought the tree looked really good, that they
It
had
does.
done a very nice job doing
The
this.
union leader covered it. And they
I'm
did
sorry?
Cut it out.
The union leader did
Oh,
an
really?
article on it later that day, and they interviewed the arborist that was cutting the tree.
How did I
It
miss
was
that?
pretty positive press.
Cool.
And it finished with a quote
How
from
did they
Amy
hear
saying
about
that
it?
she was hoping to give the tree more birthdays. So it,
Nice.
So one of the things they talked about was, Amy talked about was
Looks good.
their ants. No, I mean, what a surprise, they're still there. And that they were going to use some systemic. And I talked to a friend of mine, and he said, well, why don't they fill the holes with concrete? That's what we used to do.
Ant holes?
No, fill the holes
The
in the
tree holes.
trees,
The tree, yeah.
where they cut the branch off and
Yeah,
there's a hole.
yeah, you see
Fill
the
it
holes
with,
there, yeah.
with concrete.
The hollow.
Mike, what's your thought on that?
I don't have a thought on it. I guess I'm listening to the process.
Okay, well,
Anything I have ever been told, and I'm thinking about like AJ Dupree and those guys, is you don't wanna add like a chemical. I mean, you could potentially poison the tree by doing that kind of thing. And people who used to paint like they'd cut a branch and paint the tree, only
Oh.
hurt the tree. It's
Okay.
better to let the natural, I mean, it's not gonna heal this tree soul, it probably won't create
Well, when they cut it, did they spray any of the,
they didn't spray anything because it was too close to the pond. That's what Amy told me.
but there's a special spray, it's not a paint, it's like a sealant for trees.
I don't know.
They don't use those anymore. I talked with an arborist about, used to put tar and stuff on the special tar you buy. I talked with an arborist when I had some tree work done this past summer, spring, and he says, no, they don't do that anymore at all.
Okay.
But he said, if you want it, you can just get some tar and put it on your own trees if you want, with a brush. But they used to seal every time that
Right.
they cut a branch, they'd seal it, and it found
Okay.
out,
I had a
Wasn't
spray
that
that I used to
effective?
use.
Well,
but I don't know,
Okay,
I'm not an arborist.
so, going back to this project, our responsibility was to identify plantings that could be put, that would make the Pearly Pond area prettier, I guess.
I would say any of the rain garden plants that the Vermont Rain Garden Manual has a whole lot of different plants for different growing conditions, and any of those plants would be fine, because it was vetted in terms of no
What would you do with the
invasives.
stuff that's already there?
Well, he asked, I'm just saying.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff growing
Yeah,
up
oh,
on
yeah.
the side of the pond now.
Yeah, but, but you were talking about height conditions, right, because they wanted to be able to see the pond, I thought was the issue, yeah. So,
What would you do, remove what's there, and? I don't think so.
No, I agree, I wouldn't think so either. But the one last part that Parks and Rec is responsible for is getting a permit to do dredging along the shoreline. And when I talked to Amy, she said that whatever RFS, is that the name of the company, RFS? No, it's the guys that are right down.
Oh,
in-
Riss Frost?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They were trying to get a permit from the state to go in and do some dredging with a backhoe along the shoreline to make the water deeper because of the amount of sedimentation. So anyway, but we're just supposed to come up with the plants, and I don't know whether we're supposed to do the planting of the plants or just, and I thought if we are doing the planting of the plants, maybe we get the master gardeners to help?
Good luck.
Okay, well, okay.
One thing, did you pick up from those photos how they really cleaned out the right-hand side?
Right.
I mean, you can look right through it now, they got rid of all that scrub stuff that was in there, and it looks good. If it'll stay good, I don't know, but it looks good now.
Mm-hmm.
What did they
Yeah.
do with the limbs?
They
Yeah,
took 'em
those-
away.
Yeah, they hauled them away.
they might have had ants.
Amy asked if
Hilliard
we
Road
wanted them.
brush dump.
I did ask ahead of time, but talking with Dean, we didn't really have a plan for what we were gonna do with them.
We were gonna make stuff.
Yeah,
Sorry,
then they would leave them there for us and we would have to,
that's,
and everybody
No, I
would.
mean, not, I would, well, whatever, too late now. Water over the bridge,
Okay,
keep it in your heart.
they just don't appreciate the arts.
okay, so, anything else on the Pearly Pond? Okay, thanks for taking the pictures, Dick.
Yeah,
What about, okay, we don't have any date set for tributary sampling. Do we have any date set for,
No, you and I are going out tomorrow for deep water sampling,
what time?
9 AM
9 o'clock.
at the water department. The weather's gonna be good, it's gonna be the one day this week that's actually going to be good, other than,
Rain
Wear
the
a
rest of the
jacket.
time.
I don't know if I can do it.
Okay.
Do you really need me or not?
you told me you put it in your
Yeah.
calendar.
Well, I know, I
do
did
need
put
a
on my
se- I need
calendar.
a second person, so if you can't make it, let me know, and I'll see if maybe Rob can come out, or if one of you other members can join me.
I'll go for a boat ride tomorrow if you can.
You can? Okay, good. Then Mike will go. He's got experience doing this anyway.
Okay.
I'm a neophyte.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
thanks, Mike.
Boat ride every day now.
We do not have a date yet for the trip samples, because you were going to let me know when Winnisquam Watershed Network was doing their next testing of
Right, and it may be
Brook.
this week or next week. I have to talk to the lady who is, that I'm working with, so.
Okay,
All
let
right,
me
so,
know, and
so I will do that, and, okay. Okay. State school property, any updates? There's a meeting coming up.
They just had a meeting, didn't they?
I don't know. I thought there
don't
was,
have any new information.
I just remember getting an email from Rick DeMark saying I can't attend this one, and I thought it was the last week in September, but I could be wrong. I couldn't go either, so,
I got an email from George Bald saying that he had made a mistake on the date of the next meeting, so,
I don't know.
okay. Pickerel Pond? Nothing, okay. Cyanobacteria. It's going south.
Yeah.
Did you get, Ashley, did you get the email I forwarded to you from,
Rich Tilton?
yes?
Yes. Yep,
And they were talking about doing additional dash work in Moulton Cove and Pickerel Cove.
yeah, I think what his plan is to do Pickerel and, Malton this year, just to wrap things up and then see if they can resume June of 2020. So just waiting for Parks and Rec to sign off on that, cause I think he wanted to check with Amy on that. At least
And-
that's what the email said.
Oh, no, Amy Schmagula.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Okay,
Amy Schmagula is in charge of the invasive species for the state, not Amy Levisic.
oh, sorry.
And I think, okay, I mean,
That
you know,
makes
I
sense.
think he's doing an unbelievable job. Unbelievable job. He is really on top of things, so. And I know that the herbicide has already been applied. I think that's the,
And they said Langley Cove looks good, so,
and he's right there. His property is right there, so.
and we go out and to that location when we do the deep water samples.
Oh, that's
dip
right.
sample, and it looks pretty good.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
At some point, I don't know how if we're gonna get into it or not, but you saw in yesterday's Sun, Barton's Motel, what they're gonna do to that place. 4-story condos, and
It's the question of, the-
I'm wondering how many docks they're gonna want.
yeah.
We'll see.
So I assume at some point we're gonna get into that one.
Yep, even Rain Gardens right on the picture.
It's too tall,
That's gonna be pretty
too
big.
high, too high.
We don't have any say about that though, Deb.
What?
We don't have, on an elevation.
I know.
No, I'm talking about docks and
No, Deb said something about
too
it's too tall, and I said, we don't have any
Oh,
say
yeah.
about that.
like the thing in Lakeport there.
Or the one next to, across from McDonald's, those condos.
Well,
Right.
They never seemed that tall when we looked at the plans.
Well,
So-
it's 4 units, double up and downs,
Yeah.
and,
It's always looks
just
different.
another
in
view of the
person.
lake that's lost, that's all.
No,
Right.
I knew it was gonna be
So-
blocking.
And,
that.
and Ashley has been out there checking with those guys, make sure that they're,
That was my next question, yeah, because it's right next to the brook.
this is 12-12. So they, what was the problem they had with the second building?
I believe that their stairwell to get into the building, there was an issue with the incline.
Which one is this we're
Code.
talking about?
Is that 12?
This is the one you were just talking about, the
Yeah.
There's only one building,
12,
Well, there's going to be two duplex units,
2 buildings?
two separate, so they haven't built the second one yet.
I thought there was only one building.
No, there's
That's
two
what I
buildings.
I thought so too.
Yeah,
So
how'd
they're-
that get by? Well, I only saw plans for one building.
You're right.
well, Ashley has the plans.
This sounds like the thing for the boat storage thing.
So the original plans called for 2 buildings.
Yes, I used the plans to go
Wait a
check their
minute,
erosion
no.
control.
They showed us the conceptual plans, I mean, they showed us the plans, but not, like, I don't know that that we visually saw 2 buildings side by side, but I think they were showing us this is what they're gonna look like, is what I think we
I
had.
remember 2
Interesting.
buildings, period.
So I just have a quick question, just going through my head. So the value of Bayside Cemetery property is going to, I'm sure, and I'm just wondering what kind of encumbrances.
Wait a minute, before we do that, can we finish with 12-12?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we kind of did, I'm sorry.
So you went, and they're having a problem with their stairway.
Yeah, so they're trying to work out, their plan for that. They're not gonna build that building until, they may or may not need to come back in. Basically, their engineer's taking a second look at the plans and making sure that they can,
Which side, it has to go to the right as you look at the buildings.
I think
Can't
it
go
goes
to
to
the
the
left,
left.
yeah.
It's,
No, we're at Burger King, old Burger King.
Yeah, that's where I'm
Yeah,
at
that's
too.
what
It's gonna have two buildings there,
right, the second building will be to the left.
To the left,
to the left, near, towards the brook.
towards Spinnaker, yeah.
There could go, yeah.
And is it going to be parallel to the one that's there, or is it gonna be perpendicular?
It's kind of, is it like this? Is that what I'm remembering?
I believe so, yeah, there, and
Here's
there's
the first one,
a
here's the second one.
way to like
Okay.
get to the water
God,
material.
I wish I had saved those plans.
But I think we did see the conceptual,
It's on file downstairs.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, just,
The question I had was, there is
It's so compromised anyway. It doesn't-
there is a,
Seriously. Nobody would,
it's just,
I know,
it's not,
it's smarmy.
I know, it's just.
it's funny, because we drove by there the other
It's like a
day, and
brick wall.
it's, thinking about, how are they gonna put, we only got 2 garages, where's the others, you know? It's 4 units, right, total?
Mhm.
Guess I got confused on that one.
But
I think we all did.
The question I have is, they have what looks like a detention pond, that has an overflow that goes directly into the brook. And you said that's where they're gonna put the rain garden?
The rain garden is before the, what were they calling it? A riprap
Mhm.
apron. So there's a rain garden upslope before that.
Okay, and then there's gonna be, there's this trough-like structure that will direct the water into the brook?
Or is
They
that where
have
the
catch
rain-
basins.
Is that where the rain garden is going, maybe?
Yeah, the rain garden's going there, but there's like a detention, and there's a trough, so that the water, if it gets full, the water goes directly into the brook.
It was supposed to go into the sewer, right? Into the
storm
stormwater
drain.
The storm drain doesn't get treated though.
But the storm drain is in the front on Union
It's
Avenue.
just for the street, I believe.
Right, and then
thought
one of
that's-
them goes, I think, comes this way,
Right.
and anyway.
Yeah, they would end up in the lake anyway.
If anyone wants to come down to planning, happy to pull the plans, can look at them.
I mean, what the conventional wisdom is, all you're really trying to do is filter the first inch of water anyway. I'm just saying,
Of precipitation.
right. And then anything after that, they assume,
All the goodies have washed away.
right, so, yeah, so. Can I go ask the question about Bayside now? So I just wondered, about what kind of encumbrances the city, because I don't know, I think, is Bayside privately owned? Or is it, because I know,
That's where they're gonna plant me, so I guess I got plot there.
well, I'm just kind of
Where did you
wondering,
buy it from?
My in-laws bought
the value,
4-unit.
the value of that land is just gonna keep increasing. And I'm just wondering, so now if the condos go through, we're gonna have impacts to the shore there, we're gonna have all these other things. I'm just kind of wondering, we should be kind of keeping an eye towards who's the responsible. I think the Pearlies were doing
think s-
upkeep on that.
I think Suzanne Purley is the manager of it, yeah.
Right, and so I don't know if it's privately owned. If it's privately owned, we have no say about what happens. If it's got a city component to it, then should we be kind of boning up a little bit on that, and so that we can speak with some authority, I guess, on any potential impacts to the cemetery, or, I'm just,
Well, it looks
What
like they're
impacts
gonna,
are you anticipating from,
There must be
Gardens.
setbacks, there must be different setbacks to a cemetery.
right,
there's quite a shore, I mean, there's quite a shore front there.
Right.
For the
and-
cemetery.
For the cemetery, and right now, I haven't been in there in a long time, because it unfortunately has become an attractant to people who are not visiting loved ones there. So but from what I understood from Chris Barton years ago, was the way that the waves agitate and stuff. He was saying you could hear at night all the broken glass just every time the waves would go by, but it would build up sand and deposits. And I'm just saying that I think there's a lot of action going on along that shoreline for Bayside Cemetery. And now if we have a different application or land use next door, and then there's also the thing that we really, as I said, we don't have a lot of say about, but what does that do to how the cemetery land might be used? People visit, how people visit it, how people use the shorefront, what's going on. If they do put in docks, will people be attracted to going over to now that sandy area that's the cemetery and impacting that? Or I'm just trying to say, maybe we should have a little authority, if we have, and if the city has any say at all about what goes on at the cemetery, we should have some sort of working knowledge of what its current situation is and impacts to it now, so that if we're looking at plans or giving input on plans, we can anticipate maybe some things that would be impactful. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. I think it's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head if it's city-owned or not, and so I'll have to look
Yeah.
into it.
I haven't been back there in years, to be honest with you. The last time I was back there, it had a natural rock shore, but there was a lot of sand movement. And a sandbar had formed at one time. And I don't know if that got blown out or what, but as I said too, I mean, because of the way the debris moves down through, and this anecdotal tale of you could hear just glass clinking, at night
crazy.
in the waves.
You sure it's
Really?
glass and not from the people that live there?
No, it's glass no matter, I don't think it was people from the
No, you
From the
missed it.
motel.
He means the spirits.
Oh, I see.
Spirits.
Yes, I did miss it. Sorry.
So,
But no, you're absolutely right, because now it's basically a summer, that motel's open in the summer, basically. And if they're condos, it would be year-round. I've never been back there. Should go back there.
It's when I was back there, a few times I've been back there, it's beautiful.
Can
Yep.
you drive in there?
You can drive in there and walk down behind the maintenance
There's a
building.
good buffer between
Yes,
the graves and,
there is a
Shore.
shoreline buffer, right, but as
Do
I,
we know how wide it is?
good 100 feet anyway, I would guess.
okay, I don't remember.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but as I said, I have gotten nervous about going back there because there's becoming a parking area and visitation from people who are not visiting loved ones on the ground.
well, maybe they
Maybe
are
we should
visiting loved ones, but
Maybe we should
they're
do a
alive.
clean out.
Well,
over
you know,
there.
I think Lisa makes a good point that we should look into the Bayside Cemetery, see how that abuts Barton, and then, and take a look at what the shoreline is like there. It's, I think one of the things that we do not do as a city is we do not look to our developers to assist us in doing things. For instance, if somebody's gonna put condos in Barton, do we need a traffic light there because of the additional traffic that's gonna be going in and out?
But that's stuff that's answered by planning.
Oh, I know that, but my point would be that rather than the city paying to put that in,
Right.
have the developer put it in. That's, so it's, so this might be an opportunity for us to take a look at what we could do at the cemetery, if anything, and when they're doing work at Barton.
Now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and it's, I personally think we missed a great opportunity when Walmart was coming in to do their addition. And this is not the first, I've talked to other people in the city and said, we missed the boat. We missed the boat. We need to be proud of our city, and we need to stand up for ourselves. And we need to say, I'm sorry, that's not okay with us, because it's not good for our city, or,
Another topic then is the proposed conversion of the Lakeport Park to a parking lot. I think we gonna have to have some say in that, because
Some-
that's green space,
Somebody,
and that's gonna be gone if they pave that over.
somebody
So
posted.
your Bayside Cemetery is owned by the Bayside Cemetery Association.
Well, it's private. Thank you, Mike. Somebody posted on the I Love Laconia Facebook page that that's a moot point now that the Sanborn Park won't be paved. Is that true, Ashley?
I haven't seen that one.
There was something to do with, it was created with federal funds,
Yeah,
and part of that was that it wouldn't be paved. So
well,
that's
it's gonna stay,
at least one,
but things like that change.
oh yes,
If you got enough money, you can change things.
oh yes.
You know, if they're pushing for a theater up there, in that fire trap, that's what it is, really. There's a nice theater up there, but, you know, they have to do all kinds of stuff, and
Sure.
that's tinder, the way it is now.
It's historic Tinder.
It's historic tinder, I agree.
old wood.
And if he goes with that theater up there, supposedly that's gonna require parking.
So, well,
So I don't know how the city's gonna come down on it, but judging the way the city's acted on a few other things, I don't have a lot of faith.
I've been proposing that for that area, because that is in my backyard, and so I have I have an interest in, I've been proposing that they look at a lot of those smaller areas that there's no grass growing, it's just bare soil. It may be a private ownership at this point, but I think for that neighborhood, multiple smaller lots, you know, a lot of.
On Mechanic Street or,
Mechanic Street, and in the back, there's a couple of places in the back, those little side streets, multiple smaller shaded lots, rather than one big hot sun-baking parking lot
right,
adjacent that's gonna drive up, it's gonna make everything hotter down there, and I don't know.
Who owns, well, it must be the city, but when you are on Elm Street, just
That's right.
before the bridge, and you go take a left down to O's, on the right side there,
Engraving and
there's,
awards, and I posted that too, that's almost always empty, isn't it?
no, before you get to the bridge.
Oh, before-
When you take a left down to go to O's,
Yeah.
to the,
Well, that's the
or
snow
the
dump.
inn,
That's the snow dump.
but people, like I used to go and park there and
Yeah.
fish
along
at
by
the
the
dam
river.
there.
But, excuse me,
That's
I think that
hardly used.
somewhere in the newspaper, whoever owns O's said, no way they're gonna be converted into a parking lot for those guys. I think it's something to that effect, it was just a brief statement.
Yeah,
But when
Why?
I don't know, but still,
It's snowstorm.
I thought
I
it was,
think we should think about what's gonna possibly happen. I know it's federal money and there's restrictions on it, so that might prevent anything from happening,
right.
but then it might not too, so.
Well, like I said, though, they've got, I mean, it's a little bit of a walking distance, but if you go to Boston, you have to walk. You've got
Right.
parking lots that are unused all over Lakeport.
This is the same guy that wanted to build out on the island, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
He
the
owns
same guy who
Muskrats.
wants the what?
You know,
to do the,
Big Island or Great Island?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Same guy.
Same guy, what did he want to do?
Remember we had this
Oh, we-
big discussion about one of the girls' camp on the
Oh,
island?
yeah, I know that, but what did he want to do?
he
Well,
bought,
he's the one that owns half of Lakeport now.
yeah, he bought the Opera House, is it Opera House, what do you call it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wants to create a theater,
Yeah.
Okay.
He bought the theater,
and he wants to turn,
a bunch of other
Park into a
houses
parking
around
lot.
there.
No.
Yeah.
No, then we'll have the trees in a tree museum.
That's
And
right.
charge you
So somebody
$1.50
else
to
put that
see
on
'em.
there.
But in lieu of that, I think Lisa's right, you know, we have O's parking lot. I have never seen O's parking lot full. Now, we have city regulations that say, if you're gonna have this many square feet, you gotta have this many parking places, I understand that. Maybe we ought to look to change that.
I think you're gonna find that very closest parcel next to the dam is owned by the dam.
Right.
The rest of that is gonna be
It's owned by the
whoever
state.
owns.
Yeah.
So why can't that be used, though?
It's a very small part, but, cause the rest of it's owned by O's.
Yeah.
So it could be
But this-
done, but you
but
gotta
this-
give them money.
Yeah.
The place that,
It's the way the world works,
yeah,
Nothing serious, just money.
just money.
I mean, there's probably at least 30 parking
Oh,
spots.
sure.
Oh, sure.
That's
So
not
they,
enough.
it just depends upon if they wanna sign a long-term lease for the use of their property, you know, and give over the, control of it to someone else, or if they wanna reserve it for their own. Of course, there's always the option of buying it, but the city can't be buying properties that they take
Right.
off the tax rolls.
Right.
So the other solution is there is within the community.
You know, and the existing parking lot off Manchester Street for Sanborn Park, they haven't paved it, it's still dirt, and the only time it gets used is about half an hour in the morning and a half hour in the afternoon when parents have, like, they got about 4 cars that the parents with their kids for the bus. That's the only time I've ever seen anybody in there. Other times
How
people,
many cars does that hold?
I would say 15 probably, yeah. And parents are still parking right on Manchester Street, right by the gate opening, rather than using that little parking lot. I mean, so it's like, they've
They
got
pick
parking.
up their kids from the bus there? Is that what it is?
Yes, right at the corner of Valley and Manchester is a bus stop.
Becomes a question of how far people wanna walk
Yeah.
to go to a show in foul weather or any kind of weather, hot weather, foul weather, snow weather.
You
They
go
could
to
have
Boston,
valet
you
parking.
have to. Well, you go to Boston or Manchester and you have to walk. There's
Yeah.
I
just
know.
no.
But
So-
The other thing I wonder about is they're trying to do the Colonial Theater, and this is like almost in direct competition to it.
It's gonna be, it would be different. It would be a different,
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot, it's not going, the rest of that's Clearwater Realty Ventures LLC. Owns all of that.
So what is all of the stuff that's down along the dam, down in that parking lot? There are,
That's Clearwater Ventures, and the rest of it's gonna be the state, whoever controls that dam. They've got a piece on either side of that. on
yeah, I know,
Southbound.
but there's,
Stuff is down
they're like drinking fountains. There are 3 or 4 drinking fountains down there, not connected to anything.
That was off, wasn't that for the recycled
Chaos and
percussion
kindness?
thing? Yeah.
I don't know, but there were, anyway.
Yeah, they just had a big event down
Yeah,
there.
I know, at Chaos and Kindness. But are those gone now?
I don't want,
Okay, I have to go by there and check
it's
it
my
out.
first trip to
I don't remember
Laconia in
seeing-
a long time.
Really?
The fire department goes down there, you know. The fire department goes down there for training along the shore, on the O's side.
Yeah.
And, you know, they throw people into the water and rescue them. Yeah, I photographed all that several years ago with the fire department.
I love the way you said
Uh,
that.
You know, that's what they do.
I,
They start out right.
How do they
by
pick
the-
these people? Who are these people?
No, they're firemen, they're firemen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What are their qualifications?
for water rescue.
Oh, I thought they were killing 2 birds with one stone.
Some of them go in right, they do it on high water.
Yep.
So they got fire engines, everything else parked along there.
Okay, not that we're not having a good time.
one other question though about that area is the place on the other side of the spa, that building that they converted to, I mean, they had the children's auction there a couple years.
Well, it's all part of the convention center, 3 big buildings.
Is it all part of the
on
spa now? Okay. I didn't know if they still used it.
I don't know if they use it like that, but those buildings are still all owned by the same LLC
Okay,
that controls it,
all right.
God, I worked in that building when I was a kid.
right? It's because they had jobs in the community, and you
I
could
worked
go and
there,
get
I
one.
worked there.
Right, on that note, we better.
Okay, so, you know, everybody's having a good time, but we've run out of popcorn, so,
Staff report?
so we have staff reports.
Staff report?
I don't have anything new other than what we've already discussed.
Okay,
I guess just an update is I'm basically purging a lot of the information that we have stored in the files downstairs. So, like
Per-
DES permits, we have to keep on hand for 10 years. I'm finding stuff from 82, 83.
Nice.
Old things that we just don't need to have because the state should have them anyways.
Go ahead.
So in the midst of that, just finding a lot of things that will be helpful, and I think once I'm sorted through, which should be sometime early next week, then I'll feel pretty acclimated. It's almost good to know, like, going through it, what I don't need and what I do need, and found, like, redoing the conservation easement binder, so going through that, making sure I have everything I need.
You
Hopefully we
finding any
can-
of those pictures of the layouts of the easements?
Yeah, the maps aren't fabulous that I'm
I know,
finding so
those-
far. There's still 3 drawers that I haven't emptied. So I have to go through 3 drawers and just kind of compile everything. And I'm sure that if I don't have it, we probably have it in like the main planning files. And I just want to make sure I get clean copies because I can't tell you, I'm seeing like scribbles and colored and highlighted and looks like it was used as a napkin maybe at one point. I don't know.
Refer to page 7.
So, yeah. So I'm just trying to get a clean start, good grip on what we got, and then we can maybe start scheduling some conservation easement walks before it gets too cold this year. And just make sure.
Actually, one of the things, though, we had a discussion when Rob talked about him having a different style than previous people in his position, was about the fact of losing what looks like trash to one might be valuable information to another. And we talked about archiving and how to go about archiving. I mentioned that the state archivist had visited us, a group that I am working with, and talked about it. We talked about making sure stuff got electronically scanned in, not just tossed. One of the things we talked, because one of the things I mentioned was, they had 30 years worth of data on Jewett Brook because one teacher had been compiling all that, and when the new teacher came in, all of a sudden that just disappeared. And now we're only working with her work, which is good, but I'm just saying.
Right.
We did have that discussion with Rob, and I don't know if it just didn't go anywhere, or, I mean, and not that it,
Right.
because I'm gonna die soon. I'm almost 60. I'm not gonna be around.
So
in,
I
but-
agree, history is important, but
more years.
in the instance where it came from somewhere that's not us, if DES should have
Right,
DES
right,
permits.
that's right.
Why
Yeah.
should I have 50 years of DES
Are we
permits?
Right.
checking to make sure that DES has those permits before they're going? I'm not finding fault with you.
It would take me years. I would never get it done. There's 5 full. When I say full, I mean you couldn't fit a single piece of paper in those cabinets anymore.
Yeah.
Full. To check every single number on every single permit.
So-
While all the stuff is
It would
coming
take
in
forever.
every day anyways and
Yeah.
building up and
And the thing
becoming
is,
more.
Could anyone even find anything at that point because it was organized 6 different ways?
Well,
So-
Rob mentioned, I'm not finding fault with you, and Rob mentioned that, but I guess, I know, it has become fashionable just to trash everything. We don't have the space, we don't have the time, we don't have this, we don't have this, and then, I'm still holding on to files from, for the federal entity that I work for. I can't tell you how many times they call me going, hey, do you got that permit for that, or I mean, not the permit, do you have that design for that pond we did 30 years ago? Because so-and-so called me and it's no longer functioning and we don't know where the pipe is. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I think why we had that discussion with Rob about archiving, and is there a way that it could be, or, and I'm not saying you, God help, love you, I know what working in a cramped office is, Dean can attest to that. I've got stuff from 1946 still hanging on my head that we don't need to keep. But I'm just concerned that in the interest of time and to expedite, we may be throwing away some valuable stuff because nobody's.
I'm not in a rush to do it.
So,
I'm doing it because and I'm checking the things that I'm not sure about and make a whole stack of it, and I have Kalina look at it with me and make sure, okay, maybe we check the planning files if there's already a second copy, because I shouldn't have final copies. I shouldn't have final copies of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found in the midst of going through stuff, I swear I'm not just opening the drawer and throwing it out. If there's something that's not tied to that application that's 30 years old, that is stapled to it, I take it and I put it in a pile and I look at it and just figure out, is it something I need? Does it need to be scanned? I've scanned in drainage reports for projects that were permitted however long ago. But yeah, the majority of the stuff it's really, really old, 40-year-old DES permits is what I'm finding. And if it's not that, then I take the extra step and check and see if it's something
Yeah, I mean,
that
I
need
thi-
to keep.
frankly, I trust you. I mean,
I didn't
you
say
know, I think, you know, bringing us into the 21st century, or whatever century we're in, 20th century, you know, is, you know, I think that's what we need. And if it means scanning stuff that you think should be scanned, and double checking to see, does planning have a copy? Yes, they have a copy. We don't need a copy, unless there's something about our copy that's, you know, important to their copy, and then exactly what you said, you know, I think you need to have this, because,
I mean, I found old library books that were checked out in
Jesus.
80, in 1980.
We gotta save
I-
those, you know.
And it says, do not take from the library.
Do not
Do
take them
not
back
take
now
it.
either.
And it somehow made its way
They don't
into my
charge fine
office. Like,
They don't.
so my goal is get rid of the things I don't need. If I can scan it for something I do need, scan it. Keep the hard. I weigh on the cautious side. I will keep the hard copy even if I feel like maybe I don't need to. I've kept hard copies of like state manuals that I know are probably outdated, but have like some sort of nice guidance that I might want to refer to at some point. And in the instance where I find a whole binder, I mean, I found a whole binder of some, what was it? It was some training, and basically there was a whole slew of books and manuals that I was looking into, and some of them didn't even have links, like it would have a link provided on it, and I typed it in, it's like does not exist anymore because it's so outdated. The thing is,
Right.
the rules are getting updated constantly, and trying to stay with the times. Like, what good is it to learn how a wetland was delineated in 1987? Probably not going to teach me all too much because it's like being a nurse. You have to constantly stay with the times and know what's the latest requirements.
I like Dean, I trust that you're getting guidance on it. I trust that you know what legally you have to keep, because you already quoted, well, I have to keep this for 10 years or whatever, so I trust all that. I guess, and I'm just letting you know, because you weren't here, you hadn't, I don't believe we were hired at this point, that when we had this discussion
Right.
with Rob.
but you know what? Rob's not doing anything about it.
So, I'm just sharing with her that some of us had this concern, and so, and I didn't mean to make her, if she does feel defensive at all, that wasn't my goal either. I just wanted to, put it out there that that there are some of us who would opt for caution rather than just get it out of the way because I don't want it in the way.
No, but I don't think, that's not what Ashley said.
That's
Ashley
not
said
what
she
she
was.
said, I know.
Right, she's
I understand.
erring on the side of caution.
I
And if,
understand.
you know, anyway, okay, so,
Well, my hope is that, you know, once I'm down to the bottom of everything, that it'll be kind of a good fresh start, and I'll have some pretty good bearings on what
I can
exactly I'm
imagine.
working with, and
I can imagine there's stuff in boxes there that hasn't been looked at in a million years, you know.
I mean,
that's-
when you open
Marie
the
Kondo would tell you to clean up.
Well, she's not, she's good for your home, but she's not good for an office that you
I
do
know,
need to
okay, okay.
access archived information.
Okay, so, we have two things I'd like to discuss. One is, do we want to start at 6:30? You want the meeting to start at 6:30
Well-
instead of 6 o'clock?
We need to ask Wes,
Yeah.
because he didn't show up tonight. I mean, I hung in here long after I really wanted to, because he didn't show up, so.
Okay.
Let's talk to Wesley first.
Okay, so I'll
See
talk
if
to
that will
Wes.
make a difference.
I'll ask for Wes. I'll ask Wes. Okay. The second thing is, if people could let Ashley know whether they are or are not going to come to the meeting. Not just, oh, I'm not gonna make it, but so that we know whether we have a quorum. Because if we're not gonna have a quorum, then we'll just do a work session and we can talk about other things that are going on. But I think that you know, if we can just be, you know, just communicate with Ashley so she knows what's going on. Are you coming, or you're not coming? Maybe I'll be here, maybe I won't. Maybe I can only stay for a short period of time, because if you could only, because the quorum rules say that if we start out with a quorum and somebody leaves and we no longer have a quorum, we have to stop the meeting. So if we knew, like, if you know, Lisa told us she could only be here for half an hour. So if we then went down the list and said, okay, what is it that we need to vote on? We do it in that half hour so that we, you know, when we have a quorum. So if we just let Ashley know, yes, I'll be there, or I have a constraint and I need to leave in a half an hour.
And like I did this week, I'm happy to send out a reminder for the meeting.
Yeah.
But if you have a preference, if you'd rather have a call or a text, just let me know.
But usually it
I
should be
texted
regular
Mike.
but today, like I say, last week I was crushed, so. Usually I'm gonna try and be here.
Okay. So does
Don't forget
does email work for everybody?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting a call, 'cause I don't check it all the time.
Okay, okay.
One other thing, are we gonna put an ad in the paper?
I think we should.
Who's gonna write it?
We must have examples of old advertisements that we put in the paper, asking for new members.
Under the city of Laconia signal,
I
you
think,
can do a general call for boards and,
right, right.
I can draft something up and then send it to you for
Okay.
review.
All right, that'd be great, thanks. The other thing that Deb and I talked about was seeing if there's anybody at the Taylor home that would be interested.
Well, I had met a gentleman that had moved here recently, who was, I think, a very good candidate. He'd been on conservation commissions where he used to live, but I don't have his name.
oh jeez.
So, but, yeah, I'm sure I'll run into him again at some point. Or you all may. He's very active. He's kayaks a lot and.
Okay.
I'll ask, cause we have a couple members of the family who are part of, that, liaisons with the residents there.
He's, yeah,
So,
I think
I'll
he's
ask.
maybe in one of the apartments.
Nobody that goes south for the winter, though.
I don't think so.
Well, you know, if we know, you know, then we can
If they're
adjust
an alternate,
accordingly.
Yeah.
I mean, typically, the winter is a little slower, I think. So, anyway, okay. I also, I'll call Peter Brunette, who's the chairman of the planning board, and see if he has anybody who he thinks might be interested in being a part of both.
So Dick, I'm thinking this might be something that would be interesting to some of the master gardeners, because it's not hauling anything, you know? It's not heavy lifting. It might be something the master gardeners might be interested in. I'm thinking like, well, I won't say their name publicly, but I'm thinking of a couple people that might.
Yeah, possible.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, before we do that, I would just like to thank, Ashley, thank you very much.
Next meeting, when?
The next meeting is October 16th.
And I'll say right now, I probably won't be here because we've got the 17th and 18th. There are big events for me.
I can make 16, I can't make 23.
You can, 16 will work for you?
As far as I know, that's
Okay.
2 weeks from today.
Mm-hmm.
Would we have a 31 also?
No.
30?
No.
Okay. Okay. What did-
16.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yep, thank you.
Dean, will you be at the conservation